Stop. Just stop. Stop romanticizing classic car trips. When you scroll through Instagram, you might see a lot of these super romanticized road trips with old Land Rovers. And you might think to yourself, hey, that seems cool. Driving through vineyards, drinking good wine, having espressos in Italy. That seems like a dream, right? Well, the reality is somewhat different. We did have some of the nice stuff and some of the bad stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's start off with the maintenance it actually took to get the car on the road and ready for a 2,000 kilometer road trip through Italy. I don't know the owner who got the car before my family did, and some of the stuff he did to maintain this car were suboptimal, let's just say. I don't know when the fluids were last replaced on this car, so I had to do a full oil change, gearbox fluid change, transfer case fluid change, as well as all the differentials and everything in between. I had to grease up all the new bearings and stuff like that. You might have seen that in my last short. As you might have seen as well, we had to actually manufacture some new tools in order to get off some of the sump plugs. Because of course, Land Rover doesn't actually use standard plugs, they use this slit that other manufacturers don't use. In our case, it was even worse because someone had glued these sump plugs shut to avoid leaking. The car was mechanically in a good state and drove fine, but we still had to replace all of the fluids, including brake fluid and clutch fluid, in order to get the car perfectly ready for the road in Italy. And only one small mishap happened, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when we came to the actual trip and the driving itself. In order to be able to take luggage on this trip, I bolted down this aluminum box, because this was the box, into the back of the cab. So even if someone decided to break into the car, which isn't hard because the doors don't lock and the windows don't either, they couldn't access our most valuable items immediately. As you might have seen in one of my reels, I fixed the rattle that was mostly present on the highways, caused by one of the shift linkages. Here's a little clip. And I fixed that rattle, and it turns out that was a huge benefit for the whole trip.
Absolutely no rattle whatsoever.
And we did a lot of driving in general, and at speed upwards of 100 kilometers an hour, the car was still pretty loud. We still had to put earphones in all the time in order to just enjoy the ride a little bit more. And also, no AC, right? In the Italian heat, although it was early summer or late spring, we're still pretty hot most of the time. And I got a pretty good tan line from my arm hanging out of the window. The longest stint that we drove was roughly 6 hours, and that was pretty grueling. The southernmost point that we did was Cinque Terre and La Spezia, and to drive down there, we had a pretty long day in the first couple of days. To give you a bit of perspective, we did roughly 2,000 kilometers in 10 days, which was a little bit too much, in my opinion, especially because I was the solo driver. Would I do it again? Yeah, but probably a little bit less driving, if I could. Now, besides being loud, the car actually handled fine and was fun to drive. But then there was one little issue that I talked about earlier, right? So the gas pedal slipped off of the linkage that it was supposed to hold on to. Luckily, I had my toolbox with me, including metric and imperial wrenches, and was able to fix that pretty quickly. It just took me a couple of minutes on the side of the road and looking at the linkages and trying to figure out where exactly something had loosened. I noticed that slowly the car was losing power and I couldn't give full throttle at any point, so I knew something was up. So yeah, a quick assist from a local mechanic really helped me out on that. He just gave me a hand looking at everything and talking me through what probably could have gone wrong, and having someone to bounce ideas off of made it like a 5-minute job. And I'm also glad I took this set of wrenches with me, and I would highly recommend that to anyone who has a car with a mixed imperial and metric fasteners. One other thing that the car was not great at was gas mileage. As you might expect, this boxy truck doesn't get a lot of miles to the gallon. So yeah, the gas tank had to be filled up probably every 400 kilometers or so, and it's a 45-liter tank, so you can do the math on that. And also, it guzzled a lot of oil. I didn't expect it to, and after driving 2 days, I realized, holy shit, the oil is almost empty in the car. So I had to really go back and replace a lot of the oil, and it was a bit surprising to me because it didn't seem like that much oil should leave the car, and there wasn't a leak at the bottom. So the car burned all of it up. I'm glad I took a 5-liter canister with me though to kind of prepare that. El Tony, please sponsor me. Alright, so would I do this again? Hell yeah! It was so much fun. Driving through Italy with my girlfriend, we had an amazing time. Would I do it again with this car? Probably yes. But I would probably do less driving as well. 2,000 kilometers was roughly 3-4 hours on the road each day, and I think that was just a little bit too much. We could have enjoyed our time in the little villages a little more if you didn't drive as far. But yeah, now you know. Go do your own adventures. Cheers.